The focus is bad, the light is bad in here, I'm sorry. I don't know why I can't get that fixed up sooner, but I will eventually get it. Now, I changed the angle of the camera. You see more of the ceiling. There's a reason that I did that. I'll tell you about it in a little bit. Part 2 of Frank's 135th day, first video. Today there'll only be one. This sweater. This is the third and last of the sweaters that I have woven by the woman that was traveling with me 42 years ago in Portugal. And I'm sort of showcasing them. Anyway, I've already said that, well, no, I didn't quite say this. In Sintra, in that palace, and its name, incidentally, is a Palazzo Nacional. Palazzo Nacional. Not Royal Palace, it's the National Palace at Sintra. The motion of the camera and the lack of focus is dizzying. I know that it is. I'm sorry, I can't go back and fix that, but I can draw your attention to the fact that that palace is there to be seen. You can always look for other YouTube channels, other videos, now that you know the name, Palazzo Nacional or National Palace at Sintra. And you can see a lot of that stuff very much clearer, or possibly if you Google it or Wikipedia, I don't know. So anyway, I recommend that if you're interested. I'm sorry that you don't see things crystal clear. Once again, if and when I go back, I'll hold the camera still. I'll be able to do better work. Those are Moorish fortifications on top of that mountain. I said Roman. I did a little research after I looked at that. Now that I'm back, you know, I'm going on to learn. Now, one of the reasons I'm not showing you more of the Tour d'Europe at the moment is because I want to remind you that my reason for traveling, well, I said before I even went last May, I said, why would somebody do this? It's so exhausting, it's expensive, it's uncomfortable. Why would you do it? And why I do it is to learn. And oh, did I ever learn. I come back and I'm influenced by what I see. And that happens invariably. Now, if an American, for example, takes a vacation to Disney World, their purpose maybe is something different. Or certainly to go down to Florida and lay on the beach. I can't relate to that. I have trouble relating to that because when I travel, I want to learn. I researched a little bit. I have material to labor. Well, the stuff that you were seeing in that palace was so labor intensive. Back when I was carpentering as a profession, I remember studying a little bit about estimating. And in the United States, back in the 1970s, it's probably similar still, when you estimated how much a house would cost, the labor and the material were about even. If the labor was going to be, or material was going to be $50,000, well, the labor would be $50,000. Well, what you were looking at was extremely labor intensive. And the material, I don't mean to say that the material wasn't expensive, but they did not waste it. That figure, 32,000 workers, I ran into that because in the area of Sintra, the Serra de Sintra, the mountain, Sintra mountain, there's another monastery, I think it's a Franciscan monastery that I was reading about. I've never seen, I don't know if I will see it. But it said that 32,000 laborers were involved in building that. And I find it a little ironic because I believe it was for Franciscans. And Franciscan priests, monks, took an oath of poverty. So maybe there were 32,000 very poor guys working, I don't know. But anyway, back to the business of material to labor. That parquet flooring that you saw, out of these little bitty pieces all put together, or mosaics or like that, and the ceilings, the same thing was true. Almost no piece of material was too small to be useful. under that kind of a system. And it's one of the reasons that that's the reason that I've got the camera high, so you can see how I'm going about building this ceiling. It's almost a joke to think about what does Frank's basement ceiling have to do with the fabulous ceilings in the National Palace at Sintra. But in a way, I can see a relationship, because I'm doing this as panels. I'm doing this as panels. This is not what you do with drywall. You put it up there and you nail, or screw it, worse. You nail it up, and so it's one big white sheet. That's what people want. But I chose to do it differently, partly because I have time, partly because I like to recycle extremely. Extreme recycling. Where is it? There it is. Extreme recycling. And as an example of what I'm talking about, this is bridging. This is called bridging, solid bridging, and it was lacking in the house. Well, all that needs to be is a 2x4, or less, a 2x2. And a piece, well, that's probably 14 inches long. In a regular construction site, if a 2x4 is shorter than 2 feet, it goes into the dumpster. Usually, at least it used to. But that's plenty useful, and it can have a wild side. That's something else I don't want to take too long with this now. But a piece of material can have well, they don't talk about a tame side, but they'll talk about the other side going wild. In other words, it doesn't have to be finished. It doesn't have to be straight. Well, on the top of some of these, since these came out of a house trailer that had been sitting in ruins, as was rotting up, that I had to clean up. And many of these have screws and stuff on the top that I just turned to the wild side. And I was able to use that. Now, in putting these strips on that the panels rest on, what I've done is I took wood from pallets. I didn't pay anything for any of this wood. It was just to be going into the dumpster, or people could take it if they wanted to. Now, I sawed it down to 3/4. It was 3/4, and I sawed it down to 3/4, so it was square. But you see, this is plenty long enough for that piece. A piece as short as this. Actually, that might be a good example, because you see, here's the wild side. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's not even square. It's rounded. And what I did is I presented the tame side. Well, it's not called tame side, but I presented that way, and the wild side could simply go wild. I know, and I wanted to say this too, that extremely skilled workers can still work with bad material. It doesn't have to bring down the skill of the worker, I don't think. What I think so often happens in the world I live in modern United States, is workers who aren't so skilled are able to buy extremely valuable material. Well, I don't know if I can really explain that now, and maybe I should just say I just tried to do that. But as an example of what I'm talking about, my neighbor's barn, earlier I showed you that I tore it down, and I took this piece of wood from the pile that I had described as too short, too full of nails to be useful, but I can burn it in the beast, to make heat, or I could make charcoal out of it. And you know, my friend Shirley in Germany, she didn't like that very much, to see that pile of wood, to say that it would be burnt. Well, you know, I did say, well, I can make charcoal out of it and I'll get heat. But actually, I can, this is pine. Now, I don't know if I would do this with oak, because that's a lot of hard sawing to saw oak, to rip oak. But pine, I could make, out of this piece right here, I could probably make, I don't know, 8 of these, and of these, I could probably make, I don't know, 20. And then let the wild side go wild and present where the saw went, so it would look as fresh and nice as this. And then still one other thing I wanted to, well, I'm going on a little long about this. I don't know if you can see this, but in front of me is a regular bounty of material, pieces of drywall that came out of the dumpster. But this, what is in front of me right here could keep me working for days. And I've even begun to look in the bucket where I was throwing pieces that were really too small to even be used. And I've begun to think, no, wait a minute. Because over the furnace, I'm going to have to mask all the wood. In case the furnace would get too hot, I'll mask all the wood. And instead of putting a wood here, I'll put drywall, since it's not flammable, and I'll have little pieces. I hope you can see this. I'll have little pieces to go in there. And I don't know, maybe tape it. I'm not sure. It's a whole different kind of construction. And then finally, here's some firewood that I bought. The guys and his wife have been bringing me selling me firewood, and I sort of hated to see this because that's black walnut. I said, I don't want to burn black walnut. But then what would you do with a piece of black walnut like that? It's been split. Well, I'm not burning it. I'm throwing it in another pile, because black walnut, to me, you just don't burn that as firewood. And I was thinking about that. I got another piece here. Now this is just a branch. I don't know. Yeah, I think you can probably see the black walnut in the middle. And black walnut is such that the heartwood gets black. If it's soaked in water long enough, I think that black will spread out. I've heard that before. But what would you do with this? Well, split it. Split it. And split the white off. That's called cleft work. And that, as opposed to sawing, generates no scrap. The pieces that you split off are kindling. And the piece in the middle, that you could put on a lathe and turn it. It could be a chess piece, it could be a handle to a chisel, I don't know what it could be. But now you see, I'm talking about a different world of craftsmanship and an entirely different attitude toward material and toward labor. Well, you know, I don't know how well I've done in explaining this, and I imagine the focus is off, but next time we'll be back at Sintra, and I'll gradually be working my way out of Portugal and going on to Spain. So hope to see you next time.